General Hospital, Brook Lynn's silent storm, Dante's fury, and Lulu's irredeemable path. The Quartermaine estate, usually known for its grandeur and legacy, was blanketed by a chilling tension that few could ignore. The storm brewing within the walls of the Kew mansion was not one of thunder or rain, but of betrayal, old wounds, and simmering resentment. Brook Lynn, always quick with a sharp retort, finally revealed a part of her quiet rage to Tracy Quartermaine, firing off a loaded statement that sent chills down her grandmother's spine. "Who said I was going to let everything go?" It was not a question, it was a declaration, a warning, a promise of reckoning. And at the center of that storm stood Lulu, whose self-righteous actions not only fractured friendships but directly endangered Brook Lynn's relationship with her child. The pain Brook Lynn felt wasn't superficial. It went bone deep. Lulu's decision, a move rooted in pride and carelessness, had alienated Brook Lynn from a child she was fighting to protect. While some, like Tracy, may have assumed Brook Lynn was done with her vengeance, her silence masked an intense inner turmoil. Brook Lynn wasn't just clinging to a grudge, she was nurturing a fire fueled by betrayal. And unlike Tracy, who believed that all wounds must eventually be buried for the sake of family, Brook Lynn understood that some betrayals cut too deep to ignore. The collateral damage was widespread. Maxie Jones, always the eternal optimist and peacekeeper, tried to step into the rift forming between her two closest friends. Her bond with Lulu was undeniable. Years of laughter, tears, and misadventures had forged a connection few could rival. Her relationship with Brook Lynn, though tumultuous, had also matured through shared trials, including their entanglement in the notorious Baby Switch saga. But Maxie's optimism, as noble as it was, couldn't mend the chasm Lulu had dug. When Maxie confronted her, Lulu's response was chilling in its denial. "If you ask me, I didn't do anything wrong." Not a shred of remorse. Not an ounce of reflection. Just that cold, impenetrable wall of self-justification. Lulu, in her mind, was still the hero of her own story, a martyr on a noble mission. But what she failed to realize was that her refusal to acknowledge the pain she caused only made her more dangerous. The emotional wreckage she left behind wasn't just a bump in the road, it was a crater. Maxie, once confident she could reunite her friends, was now staring down the reality that Lulu wasn't just misguided, she was unreachable. A hopeless case. A friend consumed by her own version of right and wrong, even if it destroyed everyone around her. And yet, the reverberations of Lulu's recklessness didn't end with Maxie or Brook Lynn. They extended straight into the heart of the Port Charles Police Department. Dante Falconeri, once Lulu's husband and still father to her child, found himself standing on shaking ground. His stoic demeanor cracked as he discovered that Chase, his fellow officer and trusted friend, had known the truth about his child with Brook Lynn, and had kept it from him. It wasn't that Chase wanted to lie, rather, he had chosen loyalty to his wife Brook Lynn, who had begged him to stay silent. And in his heart, Chase knew it wasn't his story to tell. But for Dante, that explanation wasn't enough. Betrayed once by Lulu, now Dante faced the stinging realization that his brotherhood with Chase, built through years of trust and life-threatening calls, might also be compromised. Their professional camaraderie began to unravel in a tense exchange that hinted at much more than just a disagreement. Chase asked with calm but firm precision, "Is that possible, or are we going to have a problem here?" The silence that followed between them said more than words ever could. The PCPD, already strained from internal politics and criminal chaos, now had to weather personal animosity brewing between two of its finest. A reshuffling of assignments seemed inevitable. Two cops at war with each other could never function as a unit. While emotional storms tore through families and friendships, another kind of danger emerged in the shadows, one tied to secrets, survival, and the threat of a federal investigation. Marco was no stranger to pressure, but what he learned from Natalia sent a chill down his spine. She had promised silence, had sworn to keep her knowledge hidden. But something had shifted. The way she spoke, the way her eyes darted away from his gaze, it all confirmed Marco's worst fear. Natalia had something on Sonny Corinthos, and she might be ready to use it. As he cornered her with the demand, "What exactly do you have on Sonny?" the tension between them thickened. Natalia had always been a wild card, but now her recklessness put more than just her own future on the line. Marco knew how far Sonny could go to protect his empire. And he also knew that if Natalia didn't make the right choice, if she didn't come clean or take steps to protect herself, she'd find herself behind bars or worse. Whatever power play she had in mind, Marco was determined to rein her in before it spiraled beyond his control. Meanwhile, Sonny himself, seasoned in both violence and negotiation, took the news in grim silence. He turned to Jason Morgan, his trusted enforcer and brother-in-arms, to assess the damage. The two men, hardened by decades of war and loyalty, found themselves back in familiar territory, backs against the wall, enemies circling, and allies becoming liabilities. Jason didn't flinch when Sonny explained the situation. Together, they began crafting a plan, not just to contain the fallout but to eliminate it. The question wasn't whether Sonny would strike, it was how soon, how hard, and how silently. As always, Jason understood the stakes. The empire they built wasn't just about power or profit. It was about protection, of family, of legacy, of control. And now that control was slipping. Natalia, once an afterthought, had become a ticking time bomb. The only way forward was precision and ruthlessness. Back at the Quartermain mansion, Brook Lynn stared out the window, her thoughts a storm of memories, losses, and unresolved fury. Her son's laughter was no longer hers to hear every day. And the woman responsible for that silence, the one who stood tall in her denial, was still walking free, unrepentant. Tress's words urging peace fell on deaf ears. Brook Lynn wasn't chasing vengeance. She was pursuing justice. And soon, the whole town would see what a Quartermain daughter was capable of when pushed to the brink. As Friday, June 13th dawned in Port Charles, hope was a rare commodity. Friendships cracked, trust disintegrated, and secrets clawed their way to the surface. In a town where everyone carried a shadow, this wasn't just another day of drama, it was the beginning of a reckoning. And no one, friend, family, or foe, would emerge untouched.